Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson again with Principles of Management, Chapter 5. Moving right along to strategic management. You must be strategic in your thinking, in your actions, in your planning, uh, other order, right? Planning comes before action. But the point is that you must be strategic in regards to all the things that you do in management and in business. As always, we start with our learning objectives. We want to see how strategy fits in the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling framework. We want to better understand how strategies emerge, understand strategy as trade-offs, discipline, and focus, conduct internal analysis to develop a strategy, talk with your internal people, conduct external analysis to develop strategy, maybe you have consultants or things of that nature, and formulate organizational and personal strategy with a strategy diamond, and I'll explain what that is a little bit later. As always, we have our planning, organizing, leading, and controlling framework, and it's actually good because in this chapter we kind of break it up to show you which area goes and is kind of grouped with the other ones. So our strategic management process is a process by which a firm manages the formation and implementation of its strategy. You must form the strategy and then implement it and carry out the necessary steps. The coordinated means by which an organization achieves its goals and objectives. Remember, objectives are your sprints or your short term, and your goals are your long term. Strategy formulation, the set of processes involved in creating or determining the strategies of the organization. And strategy implementation is the methods by which the strategies are operationalized or executed within the organization. So you have to formulate, sit together, powwow, and come up with the best and brightest ideas, and then you need to implement those ideas. It doesn't matter how great the idea is if you don't implement it and it stays in the boardroom or on some dry erase board, then it's not doing a service to anybody. So again, our planning, organizing, leading, and controlling framework, but this actually shows you, if you see over here, you see the strategy formulation. That's in the planning. Vision and mission, strategizing, goals, and objectives. But then when you go to implementation, this is when you're actually taking action. Organizing, organizational design, culture, social networks, leading and controlling, and all the facets that are involved with that. So you have our strategizing as a whole, but we have our corporate strategy and our business strategy, right? We have our strategy overall, but our strategy is also broken up into different areas. So under corporate strategy, what business or businesses should we be in? Where do we have a competitive advantage, and in what type of market, and should we be in that particular business? And how does being in one business help us compete in other businesses? Well, I'm sure if you're in the supermarket business, then and you sell all the things in the supermarket, then you can say, oh, this would be a good place for me to actually sell another type of fruit because people are there to buy fruit anyway, right? So you have to be in the right type of businesses and have the right type of accessories and products as well. A business strategy is how should we compete? How can we compete with everybody else? Do we have a competitive advantage in regards to price, or do we have a competitive advantage in regards to resources, or possibly do we have a competitive advantage in regards to the people that we recruit? These are the cogs, right? You see, you're talking about cogs in the wheel framework of business. We have synergy, diversification, and corporate strategy. So our SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is a great thing that you can actually use in all facets of business and also in your personal life, and I'll show you guys how you can do that a little bit later. But in SWOT analysis, an assessment of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and that's why they call it SWOT analysis. Basically, you draw a square and you cut it into 4 panes, so a line down the middle horizontally and a line down the middle vertically, and then you have 4 panes, and in one you put your strengths, one you put your weaknesses, the other you put your opportunities, and then you put your threats. So if you think about that, you say, what can we do as a company? What can we do to get better? What can we do not to lose our market share? What do we want to do, right? What do we want to do? Do we want to keep people? Do we want to lay people off? These are the questions that companies have. What might we do? Well, we might invest in a new type of company, new type of software. And what do others expect for us to do? Maybe others expect for us to do the same old thing that we've been doing for the last 15 or 20 years. Now I'm going to increase this a little bit, all right? Because this is kind of interesting. I like the analogy that they had here. Chess master Bruce Pandolfini has noted that the similarities between business and chess. In both arenas, you must understand your own abilities as well as your flaws, and you must also know your opponents. Try to anticipate their moves and deal with considerable uncertainty. So, those of you chess masters out there, you say, you know what, chess is just like business. A very popular management tool that incorporates the idea of understanding the elements, internal and external, to the firm is a SWOT analysis, which we just spoke of. Strengths and weaknesses are assessed by examining the firm, while opportunities and threats refer to external and events and trends, right? So those are the things from the outside. These ideas can be applied to individuals too. Below, we offer examples of each element of SWOT analysis, right? So I just wanted to, brief you on that little analogy because I thought it was a good one. And then let's go ahead and check out what they have for these different areas for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So for strengths, we have organizational example. Having high levels of cash flow gives firms discretion to purchase new equipment if they wish to. Some companies say, hey, we need this amount of cash as opposed to credit, so that gives them a strength in that area. Individual example, strong technical and language skills as well as previous work experience can help individuals rise above the competition, right? So we have an organizational example, right? That first one, that's about an organization and what they do and how they can be strong. And this is how you can be strong as an individual. Weaknesses, right? And so I know I've interviewed people. I've interviewed a lot of people, and interviewed this guy, and I asked him what were his strengths, and he reeled off like six, and he could have went on. I asked him what were his weaknesses, and he could not give me one single weakness, right? So I just wouldn't budge. I sat there and I stared him right in the face and said, "We're gonna sit here until you give me a weakness." And he didn't give me a weakness for 15 minutes, and I said, "This interview is over." So, on another note, sidebar note, you have to know and understand what your weaknesses are as well. And if you can't recognize what your weaknesses are, then people aren't going to want to hire you. People aren't going to want to work with you. People aren't going to want to promote you. An organizational example is a dubious leadership and CEO scandals have plagued some corporations in recent years, right? So it's not really great if my CEO just skipped off with $20 billion that we needed for the company. Individual example, poor communication skills keep many job seekers from being hired into sales and supervisory positions because they can't communicate, and communication is always key. Opportunities. Organizational example, the high cost of gasoline creates opportunities for substitute products based on alternative energy sources, right? My electric car, my little Leaf that I have keeps coming up, right? That's alternative energy source as opposed to paying for gas. Individual example, U.S. economy is increasingly service-based, suggesting that individuals can enjoy more opportunities in service firms, right? Someone who can speak with someone appropriately over the phone will always have a job in customer service. Threats, finally. Organizational example, concerns about worldwide pollution are a threat to petroleum-based products, right? You say, oh, you know what? We're polluting the world, and we were making a lot of money, but now everybody's on our back because we're destroying the world as well. Individual example is a tight job market possesses challenges to new graduates, right? The day of your parent um, and the way that they went about finding a job, those days are long gone. Those days are way out here. It's no longer give me a newspaper and let me get a Sharpie and circle some jobs and call them up, right? We all go to Monster, Hot Jobs, LinkedIn, things like that. That's the first place that you go if you want to find a job. And if you want to buy a car, first thing you don't do is go down the street or Saddle Square. First thing you do is go to, you go online, you search, find what kind of a car you want, make, model, and color, and then you go from there. All right, so back to our lovely SWOT analysis. So in our SWOT analysis, internal analysis tool, we have the value chain, VRIO. External analysis tool, we have the pestle model and industry analysis. We'll go over that pestle model right now. It's actually a pretty good, pretty interesting stuff here. So examining the general environment involves gaining an understanding of key factors and trends in broader society. Pestle analysis is a popular framework for organizing these factors and trends and isolating how they influence industries and the firms within them. Below, we describe each of the six dimensions associated with pestle analysis: political, economic, social, technological, um, environmental, and legal. So, P stands for political factors. Include elements such as tax policies, changes in trade, restrictions and tariffs, and the stability of government. Right, so things that you have to pay attention to. You might not want to open up your offshoring operation in a country that has internal conflict and there's war about to occur. Economic factors, they include elements such as interest rates, inflation rates, gross domestic product, unemployment rates, levels of disposable income, and the general growth or decline of the economy. So if you sell something that people can do without, and then the economy tanks, that means your business is going to suffer from that. S is for our social factors, which include trends in demographics such as population size, age, and ethnic mix, as well as cultural trends such as attitudes towards obesity and consumer activism. Right, so you have to understand that, hey, what are these markets that these television and advertisement companies are looking for? Who are they trying to target with their programming? And are you in that demographic? Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. Uh, Technological factors include, for example, changes in the rate of new product development, increases in automation, and advancement in service industry delivery, right? So now everybody says, oh, you're going to get a new TV. Oh, yeah, I'll probably get me a smart TV. 5 years ago, that's not what you would have said. You would have said, hey, I just want me a big plasma. As long as it's got a big picture, I'm happy. Probably not very brand specific on it either. Environmental factors include, for example, natural disasters and weather patterns, right? Some things that you cannot handle. There's some things that you cannot do anything about, and best you can do is brace yourself. And then finally, legal, which are factors include laws involving such issues such as employment, health, and safety, discrimination, and antitrust. And you definitely do not want to be in a situation where where you have some legal problems and the company is going to get sued. I know that sometimes that's part of business. I've been on the wrong side of that before. Nothing too terrible, but it happens in business, and it's all about how you handle it and how you manage it. So now for our lovely discussion questions for you guys all to answer on your own. Partner up with somebody, talk to your parents, talk to your siblings, talk to your spouse, talk to your dog, whoever, but ask the discussion questions, figure out the answer, go back in the PowerPoint, go back in the book. Everybody should have a copy, that electronic copy, so that you can find these answers. What is the difference between strategy formulation and strategy implementation? Well, that's kind of obvious, that you're going to come up with a strategy, then you're going to implement it. When you implement it, it's actual action items involved. Strategic planning. Now, this one is actually pretty good as well. So this chapter is just full of great knowledge and things that sometimes before I read the book that I didn't know either. So strategic planning, usually in the form of business plan, right? So if you want money from a bank, lending institution, a venture capitalist, somebody, you're going to need to create a business plan. It's a key aspect of creating a new venture. Many well-known firms, however, owe their success to their ability to adapt than their original plan, right? So it's not what I thought of first. It's that, remember that second right answer that I spoke of? It's that second thing that I thought of. Most firms begin by pursuing their plans, but unexpected opportunities that arise over time can lead firms in a much different direction than could have ever been anticipated, which are called emergent strategy. Ultimately, the intended and emergent strategies each contribute to a firm's realized strategy, right? So you have what your intended strategy is. This is what I intended to do. And then you have your realized strategy, and this is what I actually did in real life. In the cases below, the original intended strategy can barely be detected within today's strategy. And these are very, very interesting. So I'll read the first one. Actually, I won't read the first one. We'll stop right here, conclude chapter 5, part 1 of your lecture, and then the next video that you go to will be chapter 5, part 2 of your lecture. And then we'll get into the different companies, their intended strategy, their emergent strategy, and their actual realized strategy. And you'd be surprised to see what type of companies have started off a little bit differently than what you may think.